I slept alone, and when I woke up I was married to an alien queen. Kale woke with a start, the sound of crashing waves echoing in his ears. His head throbbed, and the room around him shimmered with unfamiliar light. He blinked, trying to remember where he was, but nothing in his memory matched the place he had awoken in. The ceiling was high and vaulted, carved from a strange, iridescent stone that seemed to hum softly. Shadows danced across the walls, cast by hundreds of flickering lanterns that floated in the air, as if held by some invisible force. He sat up slowly, his limbs heavy. His hand brushed against something cold and unyielding on his finger, a ring. A ring unlike anything he had ever seen. It was smooth and dark, yet it shimmered with colors that seemed alive. As he stared at it, an uneasy feeling grew inside him. Something was wrong. "What? Where am I?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The only answer was a soft, melodic hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air smelled faintly of rain and earth, but beneath it lingered a strange, otherworldly scent, something both intoxicating and unsettling. Kale swung his legs over the edge of the bed and rose, his bare feet touching the polished floor. He noticed the room had no doors he could see, only tall arches leading into shadowed corridors. A sudden noise behind him made him spin. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, slender being with skin that seemed to shimmer like polished silver and hair that fell like liquid night. Its eyes were the color of molten gold, piercing through the dim light, and Kale felt a chill as though it could see every secret he had ever tried to hide. "You are awake," the figure said, its voice musical and commanding. "The Queen has been expecting you." Kale's stomach turned. "The Queen?" he asked, his voice cracking. I think there's been a mistake. I don't—" "You are the one chosen," the figure interrupted gently. "There is no mistake. Come, the Queen wishes to speak with you." Despite every instinct screaming to run, Kale followed. They walked through corridors that seemed alive, the walls pulsing with subtle light as if the palace itself was breathing. Statues of alien figures lined the hallways, each one impossibly beautiful, yet with eyes that seemed to follow him. A sense of awe and terror gripped Kale. He had no idea where he was, yet every step felt as if destiny itself was drawing him forward. Finally, they reached a great hall. Its ceiling stretched so high it seemed to touch the sky itself, painted with swirling images of constellations unknown to human eyes. At the far end, seated on a throne carved from crystal and shadow, was her, the Queen, Seraphine. She rose as he entered, and Kale's breath caught. She was terrifyingly beautiful. Her long hair flowed like ink in water, and her eyes, gold and endless, held him in place. She radiated power, every movement precise and graceful. Around her the air shimmered with energy, and Kale felt both drawn to her and afraid. "You are Kale," she said softly, as if testing the name on her tongue. "You woke in my palace, and yet you do not remember. That is understandable." I don't understand," Kale stammered. "Why am I here? How did I?" He trailed off, gesturing at the strange ring on his finger. Seraphine's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "Because, Kale, you are mine now. You were chosen. Our union was necessary." Kale's heart pounded. "Chosen? Union? What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, stepping down from the throne with a grace that made him stumble backward, "that when you slept, the threads of destiny moved in ways you could not see. You awoke with a bond to me, a bond that cannot be undone. You are my mate, Kale. My partner in the survival of my world." "My world?" he repeated, confusion twisting into panic. "I don't even know where I am." "You are in Lorithia," she said, her voice steady, like a river flowing through storm. "My kingdom, a land at the edge of your known universe. A land dying under a curse. And now, Kale, you are bound to me, bound to this world. Together we may save it or be consumed by it." Kale stumbled backward, his mind racing. This was impossible. This had to be a dream. I didn't choose this. I can't." "You do not understand yet," Seraphine said, her voice softening. "I did not choose you in the way you think. The choice was made long before you arrived. You were drawn here because fate requires it. You were always meant to wake here with me." Kale's eyes darted around the hall. Servants, strange, ethereal beings with pale skin and eyes like mirrors, bowed as they passed, whispering in a language he did not understand. The palace seemed alive, and the weight of it pressed on him. Yet beneath the fear, a strange, undeniable curiosity stirred. What happens now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Seraphine tilted her head, studying him. "Now you learn about the curse, about the kingdom, about your place in it." You learn what it means to be bound to me, and in time you may even understand why your heart, despite its fear, beats faster when you see me." Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. There was something in her eyes, something he could not name, that made him both terrified and drawn to her. It was impossible, irrational, but it was there. "You must come with me," she said, extending her hand. "There are chambers you must see, lessons you must learn. There are powers at play far beyond your understanding. And yet, Kale, I sense you will rise to the challenge or fall trying." He hesitated. Every instinct screamed to resist, to flee. And yet, something stronger than instinct urged him forward. He took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin, the strength beneath it. A jolt of energy shot through him, not painful but intense, as if some hidden thread in his soul had been plucked. They walked together through the palace, and Kale saw wonders that made his mind reel. Gardens of luminescent plants that whispered secrets, fountains of water that glowed with inner light, halls where the very air seemed to shimmer with magic. And always, Seraphine beside him, her presence commanding yet strangely comforting. "Why me?" he asked after a long silence. "Why not someone else? Why a human?" Her eyes softened, though her expression remained regal. "Because, Kale, you carry something rare, something the curse has not yet claimed. Your heart, your soul, they are not yet tainted by fear or ambition. You have the potential to survive what others cannot. And more than that, you can love." Kale's chest tightened at her words. Love. The idea seemed impossible in this alien palace, with this queen who was both terrifying and mesmerizing. And yet, beneath the fear, beneath the confusion, he felt it, the tiniest spark of something he could not name. As they reached a balcony overlooking the cliffs of Lorithia, Kale finally saw the sky. It was unlike anything on Earth, dark and swirling, with 3 moons hanging low, casting silver and violet light across the jagged landscape. Waves crashed against the cliffs below, glowing faintly in the alien light. The beauty was breathtaking and terrifying. "You will learn to see the world through my eyes," Seraphine said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "But you must also guard your own heart, Kale. This place, it changes people, some for the better, some for the worse. And those who are chosen are never the same again." Kale swallowed hard, looking at her. His mind screamed, his heart pounded, and yet he could not tear his eyes away from hers. There was a pull between them, invisible yet undeniable, a force as strong as the tide below them. What happens if I refuse?" he asked, though even as he spoke, he knew he could not. Seraphine's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something deeper, something ancient. "Refusal is not a choice you truly have. You woke here, Kale. You are bound. The threads of fate have woven you into this world, into me. You can fight it, but it will fight back. And the cost," her gaze pierced him, golden and infinite. "The cost may be everything." Kale looked out at the alien moons, at the endless cliffs, at the kingdom teetering on the edge of a curse he barely understood. He felt fear, yes, but also a strange exhilaration. Somewhere deep inside, he knew his life had changed forever. And as the wind whipped across the balcony, carrying the scent of rain and something faintly sweet, Kale realized that waking up alone had been impossible. He had awoken to a destiny he could not escape, married not to a human but to an alien queen, and that their story, whatever it would become, was only just beginning. A shadow moved in the hall behind Seraphine, and Kale caught a glimpse of a figure that seemed to whisper into her ear. A chill ran down his spine. There were secrets in this palace, secrets even the queen feared. And Kale knew with a cold certainty that his journey was far from safe. He was awake, he was bound. And he was utterly, irrevocably trapped in a world that was beautiful, terrifying, and entirely unknown. Kale spent the next hours wandering through the palace, guided by Seraphine's steady hand. Every corridor he passed seemed alive, walls shimmering faintly as if the palace itself were breathing. Strange statues lined the halls, some human in shape, others impossibly alien. Their eyes seemed to follow him, observing, judging, warning him. He could feel the weight of 1,000 centuries pressing down on this place, a living memory of its rulers and their secrets. Where am I?" Kale asked again, though this time his voice held less fear and more awe. "You are in Lorithia," Seraphine said softly. Her voice carried an elegance that made every word feel like a song. "A kingdom at the edge of the universe, a world both beautiful and broken. It suffers under a curse that has lasted for generations." Kale frowned. "A curse?" she nodded. "Long before you were born, my ancestors made choices that angered the forces of this world. The curse was set in motion then. It has haunted my family, my kingdom, for centuries. It twists the land, the people, and even the hearts of those who live here. And now it touches you as well, Kale, because you are bound to me. The weight of her words pressed upon him. He had always thought he understood hardship, danger, and fear, but nothing in his life had prepared him for this. A palace alive with magic, a queen who held unimaginable power, and a world cursed by forces he could not even name. "Why me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why not someone from here, someone who knows this?" "You are human," she said, her golden eyes fixed on him. "Humans have something the curse cannot consume: hope, resilience, and the capacity to love even when it seems impossible. That is why you were chosen. You carry within you a spark that can change the fate of my world." Kale swallowed hard. "I'm just me. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't even belong." Seraphine's expression softened slightly. "Belonging is a matter of perspective, Kale. You belong because fate has placed you here. You may resist it, but resistance will not free you. Only understanding, only acceptance can guide you forward." As they walked, Kale noticed servants moving silently around the halls. They were humanoid but different, tall, graceful, and luminous. Their faces were pale, almost translucent, with eyes that mirrored the shifting light of the palace. They bowed as he passed, whispering in a language he could not understand. Their loyalty to Seraphine was absolute, their presence both comforting and unsettling. Eventually, they reached a vast chamber filled with windows that looked out over the cliffs and the glowing waves below. Kale stepped closer, mesmerized by the alien landscape. 3 moons hung low in the sky, casting silver, violet, and pale green light over the jagged rocks. The cliffs seemed alive, pulsating with energy, and the waves glowed faintly as if lit from beneath. "This is incredible," Kale breathed. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." "Yes," Seraphine said, stepping close behind him. "It is beautiful, and it is dying. The curse drains the life of the land slowly, invisibly. Crops fail, storms rage without warning, creatures twist into forms they were never meant to take. Lorithia is fragile. And the threads that bind it now bind you as well." Kale turned to her, his chest tight. "Bind me? What do you mean?" "I mean," she said gently, "that you are connected to me now. Our destinies are linked. You feel it already, don't you?" Kale hesitated. The truth was undeniable. A strange pull had been growing in his chest ever since he awoke, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and something he could not name. Every glance at Seraphine made his pulse quicken, yet it was not entirely desire. It was something deeper, more profound. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I feel it, but I don't understand it." "You will," she said. "In time, the connection will guide you, but first you must understand the kingdom, its people, and the curse that binds us all. Come, there is someone you must meet." They moved through more corridors, deeper into the heart of the palace. At last, they entered a library that stretched farther than Kale could see. The walls were lined with towering shelves filled with books, scrolls, and glowing crystals that contained knowledge beyond human comprehension. The air was heavy with the scent of old paper, ink, and something faintly metallic. "This is where the history of my kingdom is kept," Seraphine said. "Every ruler, every curse, every choice that shaped Lorithia is recorded here. Knowledge is the first step toward power and survival." Kale ran his fingers along the spines of the books, amazed by the intricate symbols carved into them. "And you've lived through all of this." "I have lived long enough to see the cost of power," she said, her gaze distant. "I have seen allies betray me, friends vanish, lands crumble. I have learned that love is a rare and dangerous thing, especially when intertwined with duty." Kale felt a pang of sympathy. Despite her alien beauty and immense power, there was loneliness in her eyes. A loneliness that mirrored the fear he felt in his own heart, a fear of being trapped, of being powerless. "Who will help me understand?" Kale asked cautiously. Seraphine smiled faintly. "There is one who knows more about the curse than anyone else. A scholar, a guide, a friend, if you can trust them." She motioned to a figure emerging from the shadows, a small, wiry creature with skin the color of twilight and eyes that glowed faintly green. "This is Urindor. He has studied the curse for decades. You will learn from him what it has done to this land, and what it may demand of us." Urindor bowed low, his voice soft but firm. "Welcome, Kale. The Queen has told you much, but there is more you must understand. The curse is not a simple thing. It is a living force born of fear, anger, and forgotten deeds. It thrives on doubt, mistrust, and the hidden desires of the heart. It touches all who live here, and now it touches you." Kale swallowed. How do I survive it? Urindor's eyes met his, piercing and intense. You do not survive it alone. You survive it with her. The bond between you and the queen is the key. It will protect you, guide you, and strengthen you, but it will also test you. It will show you who you are and who you could become. Kale felt a shiver run through him. The weight of destiny, the pull of an alien queen, the burden of a cursed world, it was overwhelming. And yet, beneath the fear, a spark of determination began to burn. He would not run. He would not fall. Not yet. Over the next few hours, Kale learned fragments of the curse from Urindor. He saw visions of twisted forests, cities half buried in glowing mist, and people transformed into shadowy forms by their own fears. He saw the queen's ancestors bound by pride and ambition and the chain of consequences that had led to this moment. And this, Kale whispered, staring at one vision, this is what we're supposed to fix. Yes, Urindor said, and you will play a part. Whether you understand it now or not, your presence here is no accident. The queen chose you, or perhaps destiny itself did. The threads of fate have woven you into this tapestry, Kale. There is no undoing it. Kale's mind reeled. And if I fail? Seraphine stepped close, placing a hand on his shoulder. Then we fall together, but if we succeed, we may change everything. The kingdom, the curse, even ourselves. Fate has given us a chance, Kale. That is all we have. As the day faded into the alien twilight, Kale felt the pull of the bond stronger than ever. He could not explain it, could not resist it. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and inevitable. The queen had been right. He could not escape this destiny, and perhaps he did not want to. That night, Kale lay on a bed that felt softer than any he had ever known, the strange ring still cold on his finger. He stared at the ceiling, thinking of Seraphine, of the curse, of the threads of fate that had brought him here. His mind raced with questions he could not answer and fears he could not name. And yet, beneath the fear, a new feeling stirred, a fragile, thrilling hope. Perhaps he could survive this world. Perhaps he could understand the queen. Perhaps he could even love her. A whisper of movement in the shadows made him sit up. Across the room, he saw a figure slip past the doorway, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. His heart skipped a beat. There were secrets here more than he knew. And the palace, alive and watching, seemed to pulse with a warning. The journey had only just begun. Kale pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the strange energy of the bond thrumming through him. He did not know what tomorrow would bring: rebellion, magic, danger, or revelation. But he knew one thing: he could not turn back. The queen, the curse, the fate of Lorithia, it was all bound to him now. And Kale realized with both fear and awe that waking up alone was impossible. He had awakened to a world of wonder, peril, and a queen whose golden gaze would haunt him forever. The threads of destiny had pulled him in, and he had no choice but to follow. The morning light that spilled over Lorithia's cliffs was unlike anything Kale had ever seen. The 3 moons of the previous night had disappeared, replaced by a pale sun that shimmered through an alien sky. The cliffs glowed faintly with the last remnants of bioluminescent moss, and waves below roared, leaving trails of silver foam that sparkled in the light. Despite its beauty, Kale could feel a tension in the air, a hum of energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Seraphine was waiting for him in the palace courtyard, standing tall and commanding as ever. Her presence seemed to shape the world around her. Even the wind seemed to bend slightly toward her. Her eyes caught his instantly, and Kale felt the bond between them pulse with a warmth and a weight that made him both uneasy and inexplicably drawn to her. Today, Seraphine said, her voice both soft and commanding, you will see more of Lorithia. You will understand why our bond matters and why the curse is so dangerous. Kale nodded, swallowing hard. The bond was growing stronger, and he could feel it like a current under his skin, thrilling, terrifying, inescapable. He could no longer pretend that waking up alone was an option. Every step he took was tethered to her and to the fate of her kingdom. They left the palace together, moving through gates carved with alien symbols that glowed faintly as they passed. Beyond the walls, the landscape was a mixture of beauty and decay. Forests shimmered with plants that emitted their own light, casting shadows that seemed to move as if alive. Rivers ran with water that glowed like liquid silver, yet in their depths he could see shadowy shapes moving, creatures twisted by the curse. Kale shivered. It's beautiful, he whispered, but also, I don't know, dangerous. Seraphine's lips curved in a faint smile. That is Lorithia, she said. Beauty and danger are intertwined here. You will learn to walk this world with caution and with courage. As they moved deeper into the alien forests, Kale noticed movement between the glowing trees. Shadows shifted and flickered in ways that made his heart race. He instinctively stepped closer to Seraphine, who remained calm, almost serene. "They are not all friendly," she said, as if reading his thoughts. "Some seek to harm us, others may seek to use you, Kale, for their own purposes." He glanced at her, the bond between them tightening with every heartbeat. "Use me? How?" "Some believe the bond with me can grant power," she explained. "They do not understand that it is not possession but connection, and yet some will try to claim it anyway." Their journey took them to the edge of a vast valley. There, Kale saw the first signs of the curse's true power. Trees were twisted, their branches gnarled like claws. The ground pulsed with a faint black energy that seemed to writhe beneath the surface. Creatures that had once been graceful birds now had shadowed wings and glowing eyes, stalking the forest floor with predatory patience. "This is what we fight against," Seraphine said, her gaze sweeping the valley. "The curse touches every corner of Lorithia. And it has touched you, Kale, in ways you do not yet understand." Kale's chest tightened. "I feel it, something inside me, like fear, but not just fear, something deeper, something wrong." "Exactly," Seraphine said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "The curse tests the heart. It finds weakness, doubt, and the hidden shadows of desire. It will pull at you, twist your thoughts, and make you question everything you believe. That is why our bond is essential. It anchors you even when the darkness tempts you to falter." As they spoke, a rustle came from the shadows. Kale tensed, ready to defend himself, but Seraphine raised a hand. From the trees emerged a group of figures, rogue Lorithians, exiled for defying the queen or perhaps for refusing to accept the curse's hold. They were armed with weapons that seemed alive, pulsing with dark energy, yet they did not attack immediately. "You trespass," one of them said, stepping forward. His eyes glowed faintly red and his voice carried a note of challenge. "The queen walks with a human." "Do you not know what that means?" Kale's pulse quickened. He glanced at Seraphine, ready to flee, but she stood calmly, her aura radiating authority. "I know exactly what it means," she said, "and they are free to try. But they will find that Lorithia bends to its queen, and the bond she carries is not so easily broken." The rogue stepped closer, and for a moment Kale saw the fear in his own eyes reflected in the man's. "This human, he is nothing. The bond cannot protect him." Seraphine's golden eyes flared. The energy around her surged like a storm, and Kale felt the pull of the bond tighten, anchoring him even as his body shook. "The bond is more than protection," she said. "It is connection. And you are nothing without me, as I am nothing without you." The rogues hesitated, sensing the truth in her words. Slowly they backed away, melting into the shadows from which they had come. Kale's heart raced, his body trembling with a mix of fear, relief, and awe. I don't know if I can do this," he admitted quietly. "I'm not like you." Seraphine's gaze softened, and she reached out to place a hand on his cheek. "You are learning, Kale. That is all that matters. You will not always understand, but you will endure. And with time, you will grow stronger than even you realize." The rest of the day was spent in lessons. Kale learned about the creatures of Lorithia, the ways the curse had transformed forests and rivers, and the delicate balance that kept the world alive. He discovered that his human senses were both a limitation and a strength. He could not perceive the subtle magics in the way Seraphine could, but he could see and understand things she sometimes overlooked. By evening, they returned to the palace, and Kale felt the weight of exhaustion settle on him. The bond between him and Seraphine pulsed with a steady rhythm, a constant reminder that he was no longer alone, and that he had responsibilities far beyond his understanding. That night, Kale could not sleep. He walked to the balcony, staring at the glowing cliffs and the silver waves below. The palace was quiet, but the shadows seemed to move with life of their own. He thought about the rogues in the forest, the twisted creatures, the curse that had haunted the queen's family for centuries. And then he thought of Seraphine. Her presence haunted him even when she was not there. He could feel her even across the empty space of the balcony. The bond thrummed in his chest, a warmth that was both comforting and terrifying. He realized with a start that he was beginning to care for her, not just as the queen, not just as a figure of destiny, but as someone he could not imagine being without. A shadow moved across the balcony. Kale turned, heart racing. Seraphine stepped out, her expression unreadable, the golden light of the moons, now risen in the night sky, casting her in a glow that seemed both unreal and eternal. You are thinking too much, she said softly, her voice carrying over the cliffs. The bond shows me your thoughts, Kale, fear, doubt, and something else, curiosity, affection. Kale felt heat rise to his cheeks. Affection, he repeated, trying to sound nonchalant, though his voice wavered. Yes, she said, stepping closer. Even in the face of danger, you cannot help yourself. You are drawn to me, and I am drawn to you. That is the nature of the bond. Kale swallowed hard. I don't know if I can handle this. Everything is so overwhelming. The palace, the curse, the creatures, you, everything. Seraphine's gaze softened. You will handle it because you must, but also because you are stronger than you believe. And I will be here, guiding you, protecting you, even when you do not yet see it. Kale felt the pull of the bond again, stronger than ever. It was as if her energy had merged with his own, a tether that bound him to her, to the palace, and to the fate of Lorithia. It frightened him, but it also gave him a strange sense of purpose, a sense that he was no longer a bystander in his own life, but part of something larger, something beyond comprehension. And then, as the wind shifted, carrying the scent of the glowing forests below, Kale caught sight of a figure in the shadows, watching, waiting, whispering to someone unseen. A chill ran down his spine. The palace, the bond, the curse, it was all far more dangerous than he had yet realized. But Kale knew one thing with certainty: he would not turn back. The shadows could threaten, the curse could test, and the rogues could strike, but the bond with Seraphine was real. It was powerful, and it was theirs. And as the 3 moons of Lorithia rose again, casting silver light over the cliffs and forests, Kale felt the truth settle in his chest like a weight he could not ignore. He was no longer alone. He was bound. He was part of a world far stranger and more beautiful than he could have imagined. And he would face it, whatever came next, by the queen's side. The palace was quieter than usual the next morning, yet an unspoken tension hung in the air. Kale felt it immediately, a subtle tremor that ran through the corridors and whispered through the walls. Even the statues lining the halls seemed alert, their carved eyes glinting as if warning him. He moved carefully, aware of the bond between him and Seraphine, which pulsed steadily like a heartbeat beneath his skin. Seraphine appeared at the top of the grand staircase, her golden eyes scanning the halls with an intensity that made Kale's chest tighten. She was beautiful, terrifying, and powerful all at once, and he had learned in the days since his awakening that admiration for her came hand in hand with fear. "Kale," she said, her voice soft but firm, "today you will see the weight of the curse more clearly. You have learned about the land, the creatures, the rogue factions, but now you must witness the cost of failure." Kale swallowed, feeling the bond thrum like a warning. "The cost?" he asked. "What do you mean?" Seraphine led him through a series of winding halls until they reached a chamber he had never seen before. The walls glowed faintly with pulsing light, the air thick with energy. In the center of the room stood a circle of glowing symbols etched into the floor. Shadows writhed within the circle, forming shapes that seemed almost human. "These are the remnants of those who defied the curse," Seraphine explained. "Once they resisted, the curse twisted them, trapped them in forms they cannot escape. It feeds on doubt, fear, and unfulfilled desire, and yet it is not completely beyond hope." Kale stared at the figures, feeling a shiver of both horror and fascination. They moved slightly, writhing in place, their faces twisted in silent cries. Can they be saved?" he whispered. Seraphine's eyes softened. "Perhaps, but only with understanding, courage, and sacrifice. This is why our bond is essential. Without it, none of us can survive." Kale's heart pounded. He had already felt the bond's pull, its power, and the strange warmth it brought. Yet now, seeing the true consequences of the curse, he realized that survival would demand more than courage. It would demand trust, and perhaps the willingness to risk everything. As they left the chamber, Kale's thoughts were heavy. The corridors outside seemed darker, as if the shadows themselves had thickened. And then, as if to test him, a whisper floated through the hall, soft but urgent. "Kale!" He froze. The voice was familiar yet distant, and it carried a note of warning. He turned, but the corridor was empty. "Do you feel it?" Seraphine asked, her hand brushing lightly against his. "The shadows of the past are restless. The curse senses doubt. It senses weakness." Kale nodded, though his throat felt tight. "I feel it," he admitted. It's like something is pulling at me." "That is why you must focus," Seraphine said. "The bond anchors you, but only if you trust it, and trust me. Today you will face another trial. One that will test the strength of both your courage and your heart." They walked together to a secluded courtyard where the air shimmered with a strange energy. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked, with eyes that glowed faintly red. Kale instinctively stepped back, but Seraphine placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. "This is one of the exiled nobles," she explained. "He opposes me, yet he wields knowledge that may be useful. He will test you, Kale. He will challenge your resolve and your understanding of the bond. You must not falter." The noble stepped forward, bowing slightly but with an intensity that made Kale's heart race. "So the human awakens fully," he said. "The Queen's chosen. Let us see if you are worthy of the bond she claims." Kale's mind reeled. He had faced creatures, rogue factions, and the twisted remnants of the curse, but this was different. This was personal. The noble's presence seemed to amplify the tension in the courtyard, and Kale could feel the bond with Seraphine tighten, urging him to stand firm. The noble raised his hand, and shadows surged from the ground, twisting into forms that mirrored Kale's fears. He saw visions of failure, of losing Seraphine, of being trapped in a cursed prison. His legs trembled, and his mind screamed at him to flee, to deny the impossible, to abandon the challenge. But Seraphine's hand on his shoulder burned with warmth, anchoring him. Her golden eyes met his, unwavering and commanding. "You are stronger than your fear, Kale," she said. "Trust the bond, trust yourself." Taking a deep breath, Kale focused on the warmth of her hand, the steady rhythm of the bond. Slowly, the shadows faltered, recoiling from his resolve. He stepped forward, and the visions of failure shattered like glass. "You are learning," Seraphine said softly, a rare smile touching her lips. "The bond responds to your courage, it responds to your heart." Kale felt a rush of relief, but also a new understanding. The curse was not merely a force outside of him. It reached into his mind, tested his spirit, and preyed on doubt. The bond with Seraphine was not a chain to bind him. It was a lifeline, a source of strength and guidance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with colors that defied earthly description, Kale and Seraphine returned to the palace. The shadows lingered, whispering of dangers yet to come, but the bond between them had grown stronger. Kale felt it pulsing in his chest, a steady, undeniable connection that tethered him to her, to the kingdom, and to the fate of Lorithia. That night, Kale could not sleep. He wandered through the palace, past glowing gardens and silent corridors, feeling the pull of the bond guiding him. In the quiet, he reflected on the lessons of the day, the curse, the shadows, the trials, and the strength he had found within himself. And then he saw her. Seraphine stood at the edge of the balcony, gazing out at the cliffs and the glowing waves below. Her golden eyes caught his, and for a moment, the weight of the world seemed to fall away. She was beautiful, terrifying, and infinitely complex, and Kale realized with a start that he was beginning to care for her, not as a queen, not as a figure of destiny, but as someone he could not imagine being without. "Kale," she said softly, her voice carried over the balcony. "You have learned much today, but there is more to come. The curse is patient, and so are its tests. You will face shadows that cannot be seen, challenges that cannot be named, and choices that may change everything between us." Kale swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted. "Everything is so overwhelming, the curse, the rogues, the bond, even you." Seraphine stepped closer, her hand brushing his cheek. "You are ready because you have no other choice. The bond has chosen you. Fate has chosen you. And I am drawn to you, Kale. That is the nature of our connection. It is powerful, and it will demand much of both of us." Kale felt the warmth of her hand, the steady pulse of the bond, and the truth settled in his chest. He was no longer alone. He was bound to her, to Lorithia, and to a destiny far greater than himself. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and full of shadows, but he knew one thing with certainty: he would face it with Seraphine by his side. As the moons rose again, casting silver light over the cliffs and forests, Kale realized that the palace, the bond, and the curse were far more intricate than he had imagined. There were secrets, betrayals, and dangers lurking just beyond the walls. And yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, he felt a spark of hope, a fragile, thrilling hope that together, he and Seraphine could endure whatever trials awaited them. A movement in the shadows caught his eye, and Kale's heart skipped a beat. Across the balcony, a figure slipped silently into the darkness, watching, waiting, whispering secrets only the night could carry. The palace, alive and ever vigilant, seemed to pulse with a warning. The trials were far from over, and the bond would be tested like never before. Kale pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the pulse of the bond thrumming through him. The shadows might threaten, the curse might twist, and the rogue factions might strike. But the Queen's presence and the connection between them was a force stronger than fear. And in that moment, Kale made a silent promise to endure, to fight, and to protect the bond that tied him to Seraphine and to the fate of Lorithia. The heart of shadows might challenge them. The curse might whisper of despair. But together they would face the darkness. And whatever came next, Kale knew with certainty. He would not walk this path alone. The palace trembled beneath Kale's feet, though no wind stirred the air. Shadows coiled through the corridors like living smoke, writhing in shapes that seemed half-formed, half-remembered. Kale's pulse raced, the bond with Seraphine thrumming beneath his skin like a heartbeat that would not be ignored. The Queen herself stood at the center of the grand hall, radiant and terrifying, her golden eyes glowing with determination and power. "Kale," Seraphine said, her voice cutting through the tension like steel. "The final trial begins. The curse has grown stronger. The shadow that haunts Lorithia has emerged, and it will test us, both of us, more than anything before." Kale swallowed hard. He had faced creatures twisted by the curse, rogue factions, and visions of failure. But this felt different. This shadow was alive, patient, and intelligent. He could feel it in the air, in the trembling stones beneath his feet, in the whisper of the palace itself. It sought not just their lives, but their bond. "I'm ready," Kale said, though his voice was steadier than he felt. I won't let it break us." Seraphine reached out, taking his hand. "I trust you, Kale. Our bond is stronger than any shadow, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. Together, we are more than the curse expects." The shadow emerged slowly, coalescing from the darkness at the far end of the hall. It took the shape of a figure, tall and cloaked, with eyes like burning coals and a presence that radiated both malice and cunning. Kale's chest tightened. He had seen glimpses of this entity in visions, in whispers, but never so clearly. It was the source of the curse, the hidden hand behind the kingdom's suffering. "You dare defy me?" the shadow hissed, its voice like wind through cracked stone. "You dare bind yourself to this human? Do you not know the cost?" "I know the cost," Seraphine replied, her aura flaring like molten gold. "And we accept it, together." Kale felt the bond surge, pulling him closer to Seraphine, intertwining their strength. Fear and doubt tried to claw at him, but the warmth of her hand and the rhythm of the bond anchored him. For the first time, he realized the truth. The bond was not a chain to bind him, but a force that amplified his courage, his resolve, and even his humanity. The shadow lashed out, and the hall trembled. Shadows spilled across the floor, twisting into forms meant to terrify, to weaken their hearts. Kale's vision flickered with images of failure. Lorithia burned, Seraphine lost, and he alone powerless. His legs shook, but Seraphine's hand found his, grounding him, reminding him that he was not alone. "Focus on me," she whispered. "On us. Let the bond guide you." Kale closed his eyes and let the warmth of the bond fill him. He could feel Seraphine's strength, her calm resolve, and her unwavering trust in him. Slowly, the visions of despair began to dissolve, retreating before the light of their connection. The shadow hissed in frustration, unable to penetrate the unity of their hearts. With a surge of courage, Kale stepped forward. "We will not be broken," he shouted, the words carrying across the hall. The bond pulsed between them, and for the first time, Kale realized that the shadow could not touch them while they trusted each other. Seraphine's golden eyes met his, and together they advanced. Energy radiated from them, shimmering outward in waves that pushed back the darkness. The shadow recoiled, writhing, struggling to maintain its form, but the bond was too strong, too pure, and too human. "You are human," the shadow spat, "and yet your heart is more powerful than any curse." Kale gritted his teeth. "And you underestimate the strength of love," he cried. The words were raw, fierce, and filled with truth. Seraphine's hand tightened around his, and their energy merged, brighter than either could have achieved alone. The shadow screamed, a sound that rattled the walls and shook the palace to its foundations. Shadows broke apart, shrieking as light and warmth surged forward. Kale felt the power of the bond wash over him, a force that was not just magic, but connection, trust, and the courage to face the darkness together. Then the shadow faltered, its form flickering. Kale and Seraphine advanced as one, their steps in perfect harmony, their energy intertwined. With a final surge of will, they pressed forward, their bond flaring like a living flame. The shadow shrieked and evaporated, dissolving into nothingness. Silence fell over the hall, heavy and complete. Kale's legs buckled and he sank to the floor, breathing heavily. Seraphine knelt beside him, her hand on his chest. "You did it, Kale," she whispered. "You faced the shadow and you endured." Kale looked at her, chest heaving, and realized with a rush of awe that the fear and doubt that had haunted him for days were gone. Not completely vanished, perhaps, but tempered, controlled, held at bay by the bond that now felt stronger than ever. "We did it," he said, voice trembling. "Together." Seraphine's lips curved into a rare smile. "Yes, together, that is the strength of the bond. It is not just fate, not just magic. It is us united facing whatever comes. The curse cannot touch a bond forged in trust and courage." Kale reached out, taking her hand in both of his. He could feel every pulse, every heartbeat, and it filled him with an unshakable certainty. He would not be broken, he would not falter, and he would not leave Seraphine's side. As the shadows faded completely and the palace seemed to breathe again, Kale felt the energy of Lorithia itself respond. The twisted forests and darkened rivers he had seen earlier seemed to shimmer with renewed light. Life pulsed through the land, tentative but hopeful. He realized that breaking the shadow had not only defeated the immediate danger, but had begun to heal the kingdom itself. Seraphine rose, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the palace's inner light. She reached out to Kale, and together they stepped to the balcony overlooking the cliffs and glowing waves. The three moons rose once more, casting silver and violet light across the jagged landscape. The air was calm, filled with the quiet promise of dawn. Kale felt a weight lift from his chest, replaced by a strange, exhilarating clarity. "The curse," he whispered. It's ending." Seraphine's gaze softened, and she placed a hand on his cheek. "It is not gone completely," she said. "The curse may linger as curses always do. But we have faced the heart of it, Kale, and we have endured. That is what matters." Kale looked at her, awe and admiration mixing with a deeper, unspoken feeling. You trusted me," he said, "even when I didn't trust myself." "And you trusted me," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "That is the bond, Kale. It is more than fate. It is choice, courage, and the willingness to face the darkness together. And now, we are stronger than ever." For a long moment, they stood together, hand in hand, overlooking the alien cliffs. The bond pulsed gently, a steady reminder of the journey they had endured and the connection that would not be broken. Kale realized with a thrill of certainty that he would never be alone again. He was bound to Seraphine, to Lorithia, and to a destiny far greater than he could have imagined. The palace behind them was alive with quiet energy. Servants moved silently, shadows danced without malice, and the air itself seemed lighter, freer. Kale felt the pulse of the bond in every step, every breath, every heartbeat. It was a force that transcended fear, pain, and doubt, a connection that would endure even in the face of future trials. Seraphine turned to him, her expression both regal and vulnerable. "Kale," she said softly, "the world is vast and there are secrets yet to uncover. But whatever comes, we will face it together. The bond is eternal." Kale nodded, a fierce determination in his eyes. "Together," he said, his voice steady. "Always." They stood there, side by side, watching the moons rise and the cliffs glow beneath the alien sky. The kingdom was safe for now. The curse had been challenged, the shadow defeated, and the bond between them had proven stronger than any darkness. And as the first light of dawn touched the palace, Kale realized something that made his heart swell with awe and certainty. He had awakened not just to a world of magic and mystery, not just to a destiny he could not escape, but to a love that would endure, bound by courage. Trust and the eternal pulse of two hearts united. The adventure of Lorithia was not over. He knew that. Shadows would rise, trials would return, and the unknown would always whisper at the edges of their world. But Kale no longer feared the future, for he and Seraphine were no longer alone, no longer separate, and no longer bound by doubt. They were bound by choice, by courage, and by love, and that bond was eternal.